All right, so Andy, listen, thank you very much for for participating in one of these conversations. It's always good to hear other people's stories, especially in the freelancing consulting space. So, you're joining us all the way from Turkey this time around, and one of the big questions that I just wanted to ask you is, how did you get your start in the consulting? What kind of led you to it? Tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you very much for having me, Eric. Well, I mean, uh, I've done a lot of different roles in business world, and I used to run call centers. And about 10 years ago, I started using Salesforce for my own team in Turkey. And I was doing a life change and a career change. And my family and we moved to the United States in 2017. And I decided at that point I wanted to change careers and then pick up something that's more technical than what I used to be doing in management. So I started focusing on picking up my Salesforce skills, uh, achieving and acquiring certifications and building my skills in the Salesforce ecosystem. And I started also my own company. I registered my company as a Salesforce Consulting Implementation Partner, BRD Pro. So I'm the founder of BRD Pro Consulting. And my first gig was actually a pro bono gig for a nonprofit. This nonprofit is a human services organization, and they were running a completely different CRM, and a new management and team had walked in, and they did not know how to extract data out of this platform. So, and they were interested in implementing Salesforce, but they didn't know how, and they didn't have the budget for it. And I walked into their offices and I said, I'll do this for free for you, right? So, and I extracted their data from their old CRM system. I imported all the data into NPSP and the Salesforce CRM system, and that's how I got started. And from there on, I started working with a local ISP in Jacksonville area as a subcontractor. I have my direct clients, and I also pick up work as a subcontractor under other consulting or ISV partners. And, that's how I started doing business. And at the same time, I enjoy teaching other people, helping other people get on the Salesforce platform. So I am Jacksonville Salesforce Saturday leader now, and I help a number of people getting their certifications. And I started teaching other people using Salesforce, like on various different platforms, YouTube, face-to-face. I've done some one-to-one sessions. I've done group sessions. And I finally launched my Udemy class recently. And throughout my journey, I started focusing more and more on automation, on flows. I enjoy doing flows a lot. So that's my short journey.
That's a really awesome journey, and there's so much that I can relate to it because, for one, we got a chance to meet at Jacksonville at one of your user groups. This was right before COVID, if you remember. That was a really cool weekend to be able to go up there and meet some of the people in the user group. But more importantly, not only from my personal experience, because when I was starting, and my start was 2013 or 14, I also worked with a couple of nonprofits pro bono to really try to help them out. But more to it is it's a win-win-win for everyone, because Salesforce provides them, so long as they're 501c3, they get the 10 free enterprise edition licenses, so it doesn't cost them anything. If you are doing the implementation pro bono, the implementation doesn't cost them anything. They stand to benefit from a system to organize themselves, and you gain the experience. And I've heard from several people, that they firsthand have gotten a lot of success as well. And a couple of other people, such as Bradley Rice from Talent Stacker and others, talk a lot about the power of volunteering, because it gains you a lot of experience and kind of gets your foot in the door, so to say. But interestingly enough, and I don't have this experience, but I see it now as we have Force Anywhere. We're building this network of freelancers. Several freelancers getting their start are actually connecting with ISV partners or just consulting partners just one step above them, maybe consulting partners that have 5-10 people but don't have a subject matter expert on a particular area, and they land a project and they need someone with that expertise, or they're just landing quick starts. Actually, there's one person that comes to mind that she does all of the quick starts and the trainings, and she's subcontracted by a consulting partner to do it. So it's really interesting that you share your start, because now, especially now that I'm getting to hear a lot more people starting their careers and their freelancing journeys, or their freelancing trails, let's call it. It's really interesting, because I see a lot of similarities. But Andy, one of the questions that I have for you is, you're in Turkey right now. It's coincidental that we're recording this during your time in Turkey, but
Yeah.
are you still working there, or like how does that work for you remotely? Have you been able to maintain current projects? Have you decided to take some time off? How's it, how's that remote factor, especially with the massive time zone difference,
Yeah,
working out for you?
that's right. BRD Pro is a very small shop, so I mean, I have to continue supporting my clients. So what I do is I tell them up front, obviously, I'm going to be abroad, so there's going to be a time zone difference in terms of giving reactions to possibly urgent issues. But the way I work is, first of all, I treat my emails the same as text or voice or something. There is no urgency difference. I do not do a lot of, let's say, filler emails or sales emails or emails that some people would consider spam or something like that. I don't send them out. I don't respond to them much either. So for me, if somebody sends me, one of my clients send me a request, they know it's going to get in the pipeline for it to be implemented, depending on the urgency. And in my, let's say, smaller practice, I use also a lot of online tools like Trello, Confluence. So those are the tools that I organize the requests that are coming from my clients with. So we enter them on that platform, and then we show progress. And then if it's going to be something like a smaller implementation of implementing a package on top of MPSP, for example, we've done that before, case management, program management, for certain different areas, then those become projects, obviously, and we document the requirements on the Confluence platform. But I mean, I also communicate to them, this is not my off time, so I am going to respond to your requests, and I am going to process your needs, but they know the response time could be a little bit slower than usual.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And overall, actually, switching gears a little bit, because one of the things that I was really looking forward to our conversation is your passion for flows, and what has led from your passion from flows, because you have created several YouTube videos, you have created a Udemy course. Tell me a little bit about all of these items, and why did you get started? Is it just for the passion for teaching? Was there something else? And more so, have you seen any sort of advantage in terms of generating more business for you as a freelancer, as a small consulting shop? Has it helped you generate a little bit more work?
Yeah. Well, let me just back up and explain my background a little bit, because it might help people. First of all, I have a technical and programming background. So if other people hear this story and they think I'm picking this up more, like it takes me more time to pick this up, whatever, so they'll understand. I mean, when I was in college, I used to program, and it was, what year was it? It was about 1998, 99. I used to create Lotus Notes databases. Now the younger people probably won't remember. Then in 2001, I was importing, exporting data and doing access databases like on the fly to solve small problems. All these, like I used to lead support teams for call centers and things like that. So I have a background and experience to try and understand data, how they relate to each other, how do you use them in business. And when I started picking up Salesforce, I realized, the customization and the analysis, the needs analysis, and then understanding the process. I've done a lot of process improvement projects when I started my professional career. So, I have that eye and brain, let's say. And, the automation part was very intriguing for me. And I've also done platform developer one certification. I started coding, but that part is not that enjoyable for me. The act of coding is not that great for me. I'm a very visual person anyway. I won't forget faces. I might forget names. So trying to map up a process and automate something like on the canvas is ideal for me. I love that stuff. And my first job was probably tutoring other people in college. So I always liked that aspect of business and developing other people. I used to manage large teams where I gave training by myself to my direct reports and teams. So that's how I started doing flows. And honestly, I didn't know whether people would enjoy my videos or not. So I started doing live sessions at the beginning of this year, and that was very instrumental in trying to understand whether people like my pace, like my explanations, they can follow me or not. They can understand my accent or not. Obviously I have a strong accent. So it turns out they actually like the pace. They actually like the explanations. So I started putting more things out there, and it is actually a very rewarding experience once you start doing all that stuff and the comments start coming in. You are a creator yourself, but it takes time. You put stuff out there. First of all, it's kind of like dead silence. You don't hear anything, you don't see anything. Some people watch it, you can see that they watch it, but you don't receive feedback. But all of a sudden, I just received the feedback, for example, on my YouTube channel. The guy said, like, the subscriber said, well, you actually, what was it, lifted the dark clouds over automation or something. I'm like, whoa. I didn't know I had that power. It's quite
Right.
strong, the kind of comments you receive, but it's very rewarding. I love it.
Sounds good. And from a business perspective, did it actually lead to anything? I mean, it may not, but have you're a small shop, so I understand, at least for me, as a small shop myself, I have to do the business development, I have to do the delivery, I have to do the finance. I mean, everything. So a lot of times there's not that much time to do prospecting because you're just managing the projects that you have. So most of the deals that I have sold throughout time have been, fortunately, through I guess a bit of a reputation that I've built and relationships that I've built along the way. But starting this venture of being a content generator yourself, has it led to any business, or have you seen any difference to gaining some clients?
Yes, it has. It has led to new business. I should tell you, though, it's a slow process. So establishing your brand and reputation online is a slow process. It picks up later on. Let's say it's not linear, and also. In relation to picking up new business, the difficulty is the audience that you usually interact with are not the decision makers in, let's say, outsourcing projects, implementation projects, or improvement projects. But
That's very true.
once you start doing those things, and people understand that you are kind of the expert in that area, and you start helping people, and then they pick up on the comments that you make, and they understand that you have a very good understanding of the subject, then people do find you. I had one person find me on LinkedIn on a very difficult implementation that they were in the middle of, and the first solution that they tried didn't work out, and they wanted to do something with Flow, and they watched one of my videos, and we started really fast on that project, and I was able to help them the, like in a difficult situation, and they were able to roll out that solution quite rapidly. And I started also receiving relevant messages now on my contact me page for about possibly even 1.5 to 2 years. Or the only thing I would receive was Ray-Ban for $39.99 or something. You know all the spam you get on those
I do know, yeah.
contact me pages. But now, yeah, I receive relevant messages, and I'm just about to close another deal, so which is good. But I mean, I always say that there's no magic and there are no shortcuts, right? You have to put the time in and the work in, and it is going to get there. And maybe I was not like this early on in life in my professional career as well. I try to focus on progress. If there is progress, I'm happy. If there is no progress, then I'm not happy. The progress might be slow, but I know I'm going to get there if there is progress.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. I think the idea of just taking small steps, it won't change overnight. There's a lot of situations where you realize that, it takes a while to build momentum, and it's not going to make the biggest difference overnight. But one of the big things that I see is that when someone is looking to start, right, I see you only have 24 hours in the day. So if we have 100% of a time in the day, you can only allocate so much to business development, so much to getting the work done, and so much to any financial, administrative work that you need to do. So at the beginning, because you don't have so many customers, you have all of this time for business development. And if you are in that starting situation and you put in that time, right, to start generating that, that progress, that following, to get your name out there, you can really start making a difference. And I think it is about establishing a brand, and a brand is about establishing trust, I think, right? It's a matter of someone can see it and say, hey, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. He can probably help me out. So, whether you're doing it by content creation like you have done, creating your own Udemy courses, there are people that do a lot of speaking engagements at like dreaming events or Dreamforce and all of these other items to gain kind of their reputation. A lot of people go after their certifications. I remember at the beginning, I haven't gotten a certification in a really long time, but I was, rushing. I think, back in, what was it, 2010, if you had more than 10 certifications, that was like something. And I was like going for it. Like I went for it right then and there because it was just like,
or 2020. Addictive.
What?
Really?
Yeah. Well, it does. And it helps establish credibility, because especially if no one knows you, right, and you don't have that many referrals or testimonials of people talking about you just yet, then it helps at least say, hey, at least Salesforce seems to think I know what I'm talking about, right? So it's really interesting.
There are a couple of things I want to mention on certifications. Now, first of all, I mean, it's a very good method of learning new things, right? It brings structure. For example, when I focused on data architecture certification, management certification, and I started learning all that stuff, I realized that there are things that I did not know, and I started finding out about locking errors and things like that, and it was great. It was a great method for me to learn a new area. At the same time, I always say, like, people, when I teach people flows, for example, the first time they listen to me, or the first time I show them something new, they don't understand much, right? And I always say, it's going to click at some point, right? And none of the effort goes wasted, by the way. So you're going to hear it one time, 2 times, 3 times, and then at the end you're going to be, oh, I see it now. This is how it works. So related to certifications, you got to allow yourself that time, right? If you do not allow yourself that time in between certification, you might be pushing yourself, memorizing questions and answers, or even go to the dark side and try and find those certification dumps and questions and answers, whatever. But you don't need that. If you put in the right time and right effort, you are going to understand and you are going to pass that certification.
So that brings an interesting point, and maybe like the question to wrap this one up, because the more I talk to a couple of people who have been in the industry for a really long time, the more the conversation comes about of, do certifications still matter? And I want to ask that question to you because you mentioned something really interesting, that there are a lot of dumps out there, and there are people who just skip some steps, let's just say, to try to just crush these exams, get whatever minimum passing grade they can get to get the certifications, but they may have very little experience. So for someone looking to start their brand or start their freelancing journey, is there still value to going for tons of certifications, or would you say, listen, get the two consultants or architect certifications to become a registered partner, get that, and then focus your time elsewhere? For someone who's limited on time, trying to get their couple of customers, how would you recommend it? Do you still think it's relevant to go for as many certifications as possible?
This is a very good point. Now, first of all, before even certification, there are a couple of things I want to mention and recommend. First of all, I think specialization is extremely valuable, right? So you need to find your path where you want to focus on and specialize. Achieving certifications in all kinds of different areas, 10 of them, could be possibly even less valuable than focusing in one area. And when focusing in one area, especially if you're not coming from Salesforce background, look at your resume and try to establish your expertise on top of your past experience. Have you done sales support before? Then focus on sales. Have you done marketing before? Focus on marketing. Have you been a call center agent before? Service Cloud is vast, very big. And take the time to learn the topic very well, and build your experience, and at the same time you try and learn by building things, right? If you're learning flows, try and learn by building use cases in DevOps and things like that, instead of just focusing on questions and answers. I mean, I can tell you from my own teaching experience, for example, a person who had passed platform app builder, for example, right? I know that they know that topic is valuable. The certifications is definitely valuable. But if I compare a person who has passed that certification to a person who has completed my Udemy class and has taken the time to build that stuff in DevOps, I know the person who has done my class knows more about flows than the guy who passed the platform app builder. Obviously, they might have done all those things by themselves. That's not what I'm saying. They don't really have to take my course to learn that stuff. But I know they put in the time to try and build things. I think this is the important part. Like, there are people out there who'll say, like, you need a minimum of 8 certifications, 10 certifications, or 3 certifications. I don't believe in a magic number, first of all. And there's also content out there from people who I respect very much. I'm not saying I don't respect their content, but they put out content to say, well, this certification is more valuable than the other certification, because when I go on LinkedIn, everybody is looking for these people who actually have that certification. But that's actually missing the point, because there are some very valuable areas that are like in the satellite of the Salesforce ecosystem, like field service lightning and marketing cloud. You are not going to see those numbers when you look at the big numbers, but right now, possibly they are the most valuable talents that are out there.
Yeah. So, and CPQ.
Yeah, CPQ, exactly. I forgot.
Yeah.
You know this better than I do.
I don't know about that, but we do our humble best. But I agree with you there. So I think you bring up very valid points. I think, as I mentioned, I've come to the conclusion that, at least today, you get the basic certifications that you need to become a registered partner, which I think it has to be a combination of 2. It can be 2 architects, 1 consultant or an architect, or 2 consultant certs. Get those, right, so you can start your registered partner journey if it's what you want to pursue. There's a lot that we can entangle on whether you should even become a registered partner or not. But if you do want, get those two, and then kind of, find a specialization, or more importantly, let the specialization find you if you don't have one already. Because as you start growing, you start seeing, at least I did, and I've heard from many others that do, industries start to find you, right? You start getting projects with one, and then somehow like someone else hears about it and you get a project with another one. I don't mean this bad for any client that's watching, but I've never had a background in healthcare or an interest in healthcare. But the past, 5 years, I want to say 3/4 of my clients have been in the healthcare industry. Like the HLS sector has been really big for me, just because it's not that I chose to pursue it, it kind of found me. So, Health Cloud right now, if they ever roll out a certification, I'll probably get it just for the sake of saying, I have the experience on it. But even at that point, I don't know if it's even worth it for me, because again, I'm fairly established as is on the healthcare side. So it's really interesting. So I appreciate that.
Go ahead. You know how we do requirements analysis with the client, right? We always want to ask the why question. Sometimes we want to ask the why questions 3D, right? Why do you want to do that? And why? So you got to ask yourself, why do you want that certification? It's very important. You need to decide whether that certification is on your career path or not. I hear a lot of people want to get advanced admin, and I sometimes ask them, what is your end game? Are you going to be an admin? Are you going to be a full-time admin? Is that what you want? And you want to achieve that certification to show that you are a Jedi admin? Because if you're not on an admin track, if you're on a consultant track or something else, I'm not sure whether that's the most valuable certification out there. They just see it as a very advanced certification, and it's a target that's high up. They just want to achieve it for the sake of it.
Or perhaps there are a lot of people that like the recognition, and it's not even the word advanced that matters so much. It's perhaps that it's maybe one of the easier ones to get you to a double-digit number, to say you're 10x, 12x certified, whatever the case may be. Yeah. Because I know a lot of people that go for similar certifications that are not that important, I'd argue, but they just want to capture the easy ones, right? Especially the ones that there's a lot of training material and training content out there, so they can crush it as fast as they can. And I've seen it with a couple of freelancers, and I've asked the same exact question. It's funny to hear you say it, because I've asked the same exact question. I'm like, you have the admin and like a marketing cloud specialist, but you want to become a registered partner. Why are you not taking time to dedicate? And this person in particular even wanted to go for the third certification, which was completely irrelevant. I think platform app builder or something like that. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, well, you need a consultant type certification, an architect type certification. Like, why aren't you starting on your sales cloud? Why aren't you starting on your Pardot consultant? Because this particular person had some Pardot experience. I'm like, these are the things that you'll need to focus on, because if your goal is to become a registered partner, you're going to need these. These are requirements. So it's kind of interesting. A lot of people a lot of times don't do that root cause analysis of the why and the why and the why, right? Similar to how we do to customers when we're trying to implement, and don't properly think through their end game. And I think that's something that helps, I guess it would be a shortcut, right, in a way, or it helps people stay focused to get there sooner and focus their energy and resources where it matters the most, especially when you're starting off. So yeah, very good. Andy, I've enjoyed the conversation. Anything else that you'd like to add, or any talking points that you think would be cool to bring up?
Well, I mean, the points you brought up reminded me of becoming a partner with Salesforce, right? Mm-hmm. Probably this is not a topic that's being discussed a lot. There could be people who actually refrain from making comments. I'm independent. I don't care. So I can actually tell you a little bit about it. Maybe it'll be useful for other people. So I've been a registered partner for multiple years now. And initially, to be honest with you, the benefit of becoming partner for a smaller partner who's starting up was not that great, to be honest with you. And I respond to surveys, and I also complained a couple of times about the infrastructure that they put together, the partner um, systems and platforms. It was a little bit odd for me at the beginning because I realized, for example, if you want a technical question answered, if you have a need, uh, unless you open a ticket for it, you probably want to post that on client trailblazer groups rather than partner groups, because you're not going to get an answer on the partner side. That's how I learned the partner side function initially. And there was not a lot of material, training material that was available to partners dedicated on that side. Now, uh, I feel personally in the last year or so, Salesforce made quite a development on that side. And I think the partner learning camp is quite valuable at this point, because there are some training programs in there that you cannot access if you're not a registered partner.
Right.
I implemented Salesforce Lightning Scheduler for somebody, and I mean there was material out there, not dedicated to the partner side, but there was actually a dedicated class on the partner side with video and other content as well that helped me a lot doing that. There are certifications. Obviously, there's a certification benefit for you and your employees that you can use, and the fee is not very high at this point. So at this point, I feel like it's a good value for you to use on that side. But I would also caution people, when people want to register themselves as a Salesforce partner, they might be thinking they are going to be generating a lot of leads. That doesn't happen. There is no shortcut or magic over there. When you open those partner sites, the leads are not going to flood your system. So so you still have to sell them, right?
It's interesting you say that, because that's the big piece. And for me, there's a lot to unpack, and I guess I'll try to be as brief as possible. But I agree with a lot of what you said. I know that there's been a lot of changes recently, but I think as a small partner, it's tough to take advantage because it's very time intensive to really dive in. There's a lot in the partner community that you can do and figure out and all these items. And, I genuinely don't know where people find the time. But I know that bigger companies dedicate time and they see some value in it. But as a small individual, it's tough. So as a small individual, I guess the recipe for success that I can recommend is that become the registered partner for the title. And this is crucially important because an account executive will not recommend you to someone else if you're not a registered partner. Like, you can be a very experienced Salesforce person, but they need to, for their own sake, they need to be able to recommend someone who they can point to the App Exchange and say, here's their page, right? And here's how this is an official, right, registered partner in our partner program. Now, like you mentioned, registering for the partner program won't mean that these leads will just come in and these account executives won't come to you. So once you get the registered partner status just for the title, you have to start going through any clients or any orgs that you have access to or have worked on and find out who the account executives are for those orgs and reach out to them and say, listen, my name is such and such. I'm a registered partner. I've done some work here on this org. And especially if you can help them, saying, hey, I think these guys would really benefit from maybe some high velocity sales or whatever, and kind of help them, increase the contract spend on that client. Then you start building a relationship with an account executive directly, right? So that way in future deals, if they need a partner that's local in the area or a partner that has the expertise that you may have, that they can start looping you into other deals. And it's exactly what you said. There's no shortcuts, but if there is a way to be tactical about what you have, I think that's the best way to go about it. Just because like if you're just hanging around the partner community waiting for a deal to fall in your laps, it just won't happen. So take the title. If your intent is to scale, then do become a registered partner and use that title of registered partner to start networking with account executives that you are within your reach. And grow from there. And that's probably the better way that I can say with regards to how to leverage as an individual consultant, how to leverage the partner ecosystem. Not sure if you you disagree, or if you have any other
Oh,
option
no,
or
I was
thoughts.
just going to say that's a super valuable tip. I mean, I feel like we just dropped very valuable tips for people who are starting off here. You know, I think some other people charge for this.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see. For now, we'll keep this going. But the but and probably a good way to put a pin on that, because I know we're well over the time that we had. But listen, Andy, I really appreciate it. Always it's been some good insights. It's been a fun conversation. Hope you enjoy the rest of your time over there in Turkey, and maybe we'll catch up for another one of these later in the future.
Thank you very much, Eric. I
All
appreciate it.
right. Yeah.